To make our 3D experiences more interactive and more immersive, let's see how to handle mouse, keyboard, and touch events. Let's start with the mouse event. First, let's dive into our project. We have the application. Inside the canvas, I wrap the content into an experience component. So from here, we could be using React Fiber hooks. Then inside, we have those components we can ignore, the contact shadows and environment. And we have 3 spheres. This is what we have so far. And for the spheres, it's not meshes I declared directly here in the experience, but I wrap them in a component named movable sphere. So the logic we will apply to this mesh will be the same for each of those meshes. So I only adjusted the position here, but we can put our logic in the movable sphere. By default, meshes, also group, have events that we can monitor. For example, on pointer enter and on pointer leave. But if you look at the list on pointer, you have many options available. It depends on what you're looking to achieve. Let's create a state, hovered, and set hovered. We'll be using use state is equal to false. So by default, we are not hovering this mesh. On pointer enter, we'll do set hovered to true, and on pointer leave, we'll set it to false. Now in our code, we know if we are hovering that sphere or not. So let's react to this change by changing the color. So if it is hovered, we'll be using a ternary. We will set the color to pink. And if it's not, we will keep the default color to white. Now, if we hover a sphere, you can see it turns pink and then it turns back to white. And it is working on our 3 spheres. Now we will want to be able to select a sphere by clicking on it. So we'll create another state, selected. So we set it to false and we will use on click event. And we will set selected to the opposite value of selected, which means if we click twice, it will deselect it. As we also need to handle the color, let's create a new variable for the color. We won't use a state because it's no need, we will just compute it every time. So color is equal to this, but we will add another condition. If it is selected, then automatically it will bypass those conditions and it will set the color to hot pink. But because we are changing our color value, it can be a const. We need to use a let. Time to try it. If we go over, it's pink. If we click, it's hot pink. If we leave, it's still hot pink. And if we click back, it's back to pink and we can leave it again. And it works on multiple ones. Go back into the experience component and we will add another movable sphere behind the other ones. So position Z to -10, but we will make it very big, so with a scale of 3 times. Okay, but I want to see it behind this sphere for a demonstration purpose, so we will adjust our camera position. Let's go to app.jsx and decrease the Y position. Okay, now we see both of them. So if I hover this sphere and I go up, it will go through the mesh and it will also trigger the event of the big sphere behind. This is because the event is bubbling. It doesn't stop when the first one is triggered. If it's not the behavior we want, we can do like we do in HTML, CSS. So go inside the event. We can use E to get the event. So we need to create a proper function here and do e.stopPropagation. That way it will stop the propagation, the first one it's triggered. So the first sphere that will catch this event. Let's also do it on the onClick here, e.stopPropagation. Now if we try again, it's not triggered here. And if we go to the bigger sphere, it's working correctly. If I click on one, it's not impacted by the other. Let's say we want to deselect a sphere when we click outside. We can simply do onPointerMist and set selected to false. Now if I select one and I click outside, it's triggered and it's not selected anymore. It also happens if I select another one because this sphere will have the onPointerMist triggered. We also want to show our user that the sphere is clickable. We have that hover effect that is affecting the color, but we also want to change the cursor. To do this, thanks again to Dry Library, we can use cursor hook and pass the hovered value. You can see the parameter is it hovered? So it's a Boolean, it's what we have currently. And there are two additional parameters that are on pointer over and on pointer out to define what cursor you want. But by default, it is the pointer one, and it's the one we want to use. Now my cursor is the default one, but if I go over a sphere, it's becoming a pointer, so I know it's clickable. This is the kind of details that help your project look very professional. The string value that you can use is the same than the CSS cursor property. So for example, let's try with the grab one. Let's add here grab, and by default we say pointer. So now when nothing is happening, I have the default cursor. When I go over one, I have the hand to show I can grab. It's not the case here, but we could have made a sphere that you can grab. And when I leave it, I have the pointer one, because I say that when I leave, it will now display this one. But let's set it back to pointer and initial cursor, so with the default values. We won't cover it together, but if you want to create that drag and drop system, you could use on pointer down, start your dragging, then on pointer move, to move your item while you are dragging it, but also on pointer up when you have finished. Maybe you have guessed, but we have called our component movable sphere. So let's make it move when we use the keyboard and when it's selected. We'll be using the keyboard controls from Joy library. You have the documentation to explain how it works, but we will do it together. To be able to react to keyboard events inside our project, we need to wrap everything into the keyboard controls wrapper. So here and here. The argument it takes is a map. It's the definition of keys you want to handle. To make it properly, what we will do is create a const controls. It will be an object with the definition of the name we want to name our keys. It won't be the exact key, but what it does. So for example, forward, we'll name it forward. Then back, we'll name it back. It's just to reference string or property. It's like an enum if we were using TypeScript. Then left and right. Now inside our app, we will create a map. We'll be using useMemo, so it's not regenerated every time. And we will return an array for each control. So we don't need to return. We can directly say it's an array that is returned by the function. It contains the name, so the name will be control.forward, and then the keys that will be associated to this function. So to go forward, we can either use arrow up or key W. So inside our project, when we will want to say, is our character going forward, we'll be using forward. We won't be looking for the key, so it can be configurable easily at one single place. Let's repeat the process for the other keys. I hope ChatGPT will be helpful. It looks it is. So back, left, A, is it correct for me? Yeah, maybe. And the right. Now we have successfully configured our keyboard controls. We should be able to use it inside our movable sphere component. Let's try to detect if a certain key is pressed. So is forward pressed is equal to use keyboard controls. We get it with state, and we check if it's state of controls dot forward. We need to import controls. But by doing this, we can rename it easily instead of passing directly forward value. Now we know if forward is pressed, it's a Boolean. We'll declare a constant movement speed. Let's set it to 0.05. To be able to move our sphere in a useFrame function, we need a reference over it. So let's create a reference and define it. Const ref is equal to useRef. Now let's use the useFrame hook. We check if our sphere isn't selected, we'll do nothing. So we'll just return. Now if forward is pressed, we will do ref.current.position.y and we will put our sphere go over. So we'll increment the y position. Let's quickly try it before handling the other direction. If we select it, it moves. If it's not selected anymore, I can press, nothing happens. So let's replicate for other directions. Forward, back, back, and left, right, left, left, right, right, and we will handle them here. So ChatGPT, be my help. Perfect. Let's try it. Let's select a sphere and we are able to move it. We can take another one and move it. If you want to go further with mouse and touch event, you can use the use gesture library, which is from the creator of React 3 Fiber. We won't cover it in that course because it is an advanced topic. They explain you can use it as a standalone library, but to get the most of it, you need to combine it with React Spring or any other animation library. We will cover React Spring library in the animation lesson. If you want to dive into it, I recommend to start by finishing the entire course and then to look at the documentation and all the available examples.